Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Z. I'm a clinical psychologist specializing in transgender care. Welcome to my channel. If you are new here or a regular viewer and have not yet subscribed, I would very much appreciate if you do. That way, not only are you helping support me and my channel, my content, but you're helping so many other people find this content. So I really appreciate you being part of this channel. Today's video is for all of you out there, beautiful trans women identified who are late bloomers. I'm not even going to try to put an age on what late blooming is. I feel like it's one of those things that everybody has their own concept of what late blooming is. Some people feel like if they're in their 40s, they're already late bloomers. If they're in their 50s, in their 60s, in their 70s. So if you do feel like you are a late bloomer when it comes to your gender, when it comes to realization of your gender, or maybe you've been aware all this time, but in other words, you are a late bloomer in a sense of now stepping into your gender and whatever that may mean. I want to talk to you about the most challenging obstacles that all of you face, and I want to help you understand this obstacle so that you can see your situation differently. Because I will be the first one to say, and I have said this many times on this channel, there's never such thing as too old to go through gender transition, especially when gender transition is whatever works for you. It doesn't have to be this linear process from point A to point B. It is truly is whatever it is for you. And as such, not only is there no one way to go through gender transition, but everybody has different steps they're going to take. So I've seen people in their late 70s and even up to 80s go through gender transition. Now, it may have not involved surgical interventions for them because it just felt like it was not worth it for them at that point in their life. But it doesn't mean that they had to continue to stuff away and keep their identity deep down within versus finding a way of externalizing it and versus finding a way of sharing it with the rest of the world. Most importantly, sharing it with themselves and their loved ones. So, my old beautiful trans women, late so-called quote unquote late bloomers. What is the biggest obstacle that I see that tends to challenge so many of you? And this most likely is going to resonate with a lot of you. The number one biggest obstacle, and this is I've seen create a very big stop sign in front of so many of you, is putting a lot of stock into physical standards, physical expectations of your feminine expression. What do I mean by that? I've seen so many people who, again, people identify as late bloomers in age 40 and up, right? At least in my experience, they have been, which, like, really, that's just your life just begins. I'm 44. My life, I feel like, just only started in 40s. So when you have this expectations, when you first of all, when you realize you're trans femme, you're trans woman, and then you realize you want to do something about it. You realize that there is options out there. You realize that you can actually go through gender transition. Then initially this obstacle tends to come right in. The obstacle of you sitting there and then saying, there's no way I can ever pass as a woman. There's no way I can ever look like cis woman. There's no way I can ever be attractive woman. And then all of this critical, negative self-talk kicks in, such as, that's right, there's no way you can ever pass. Who are you kidding? You're middle-aged person. It's never going to work out for you. You're not young. It's too late for you. You're too old to go through this. The hormones and other things are never going to work out for you. You've been exposed to testosterone for far too long. Does that sound familiar? It probably does. I know that a lot of you have been hearing this, and I know that a lot of you have been confronted with this obstacle. It is only an obstacle in so much as you have a standard out there that is strongly tied to physical expectation. And the physical expectation is two things. Either it is your external feminine that you already know potential. Maybe you have internal image of yourself as a woman, and it's this idealized image of yourself. Or it is some other woman out there, either trans woman or cis woman, that you're idealizing. It could be somebody that you think is very. I've seen people who idealize Grace Kelly. I've seen people who idealize Angelina Jolie. I've seen people who idealize Catherine Zeta-Jones. The celebrity figures in our life, Marilyn Monroe, that we look to and we see almost like an internal self shining through. And when that becomes your standard, when that becomes your the bar that you set for yourself, that's when this obstacle is bound to keep you caged in. That's when it becomes again a prison. And you become a prisoner in this case of not even so much of gender dysphoria anymore, but now you're a prisoner with gender dysphoria of your own standard that is tied to physical expectations that may not even be realistic. And I've seen people give up hope, and I've seen people use that as the justification of not taking steps to better their health. Use that as justification that they shouldn't get into hormones. They shouldn't even come out to their husband. They shouldn't, all this, I shouldn't, because I will never look like that. How realistic is that? How realistic is that? It's the same things we all do with the rest parts of our lives where we come up with all the shouldn't. I'm not going to start YouTube channel until I lose 10 pounds. By the way, true story. Have anybody seen my very first videos? It's just such a departure, just even how I talk and how I express myself, right? But I didn't let that hold me because I had something to say and I wanted to say it and I wanted to share this with all of you. But imagine if I was constantly holding myself back. So we all have these things that are like heavy ball of weights wrapped around our ankles that keeps holding ourselves back. If I waited until my English was completely perfected to start expressing myself on YouTube, we wouldn't be talking right now. We would not be having this conversation. But I said, you know what, screw it. Obviously, they can hear I have an accent. Obviously, there's going to be mispronunciation of the words. It is what it is. It's a package. It's Dr. Z package. You are a package of your own femininity. Your femininity, especially as a late bloomer, has so much more potential than an earlier bloomer. Let me say that again. Your femininity, especially as a late bloomer, has so much more potential than somebody who is a younger bloomer. Let me explain why. Younger bloomers haven't lived their lives. They haven't cultivated patience. They haven't cultivated inner wisdom. They haven't cultivated what all of you have, which is we call crone age. You know that triple goddess, maiden, mother, and crone? Well, late bloomers tend to be crones. I love crones. I consider myself crone, even though chronologically 44 people would say I'm a mother. But I think I'm totally crone because I'm such an old soul. I love crones. Crones have so much life, wisdom. It is that wisdom that gives you capacity, mental resources, tenacity, perseverance, everything else that younger bloomers don't have. Yeah, younger bloomers, you may argue, are better off because they're younger, their body is younger, more useful, they have more potential to be changed with hormones, all of those things. But transition is not just about external shifts. It is far more about internal shifts, way greater than external. We tend to, in transgender culture and in transgender medicine, focus way too much on physical and external, which, no doubt, is important because of physical gender dysphoria so many of you feel. But make no mistake about it. It is not the most important thing. It is very important, but what's far more important is internal spiritual integration. It is internal psychological integration. Why do you think so many individuals who do transition and they look amazing continue to chase something because they're still not happy, continue to run after something? Why do you think so many people who do transition and look amazing are feeling void inside, the emptiness, still feel like deep sense of imposter and incompleteness and depression? Because all of this externally happened, nothing has happened on internal. For people who identify as late bloomers, the physical should not be an obstacle because you're smart enough, resourceful enough, lived life long enough to know that it's not all about physical. I understand physical is important. I want to be very clear here. In no way am I negating or reducing how important for all of you it is to have an alignment, an external physical alignment with your feminine selves. It is very important. In no way am I saying that you should consider transitioning without even thinking about expressing yourself in any feminine way or trying to achieve that physical alignment. That is not what I'm saying. But it is really important to be careful and not to put so much stock on physical. Here's why. Not only it becomes your biggest obstacle that keeps you back, but also the challenge with that being your high standard is this. It prevents you from realizing how you're going to feel. I have a video I did a long time ago. What if I transition and I will be ugly? For everybody who is very focused on passing, on just being perceived and seen as women, which again is very important. And what I say in that video is I'm going to say here. What I say in that video is this. You're putting so much emphasis on physical. You're holding yourself back from moving forward. You don't realize that what happens 90, I almost want to say 99%, but I don't want to give you such high percentage. 90% of the time, what I see is this. People put so much emphasis on physical, but then they start taking steps, whatever those steps might be. It could be coming out, expressing themselves. It could be showing up more in a feminine way. It could be starting feminizing hormones. And they start feeling so much more connected to themselves as a result. And they start feeling so much more in touch with themselves as a result. And the dysphoria starts to decreasing. And you finally start to breathe. It's almost as if this heavy burden has been lifted off of you. When you start feeling all of this, you know what happens for 90% of people? There's a shift from an emphasis, so much emphasis on physical, and a shift so much from achieving that physical, which it's still there, but it changes. What becomes primary is your well-being. Because it's not until you experience feeling better can you reassess how much more worse you've been feeling. Right now, a lot of you are feeling dysphoria from lesser to greater degree. It's one thing to feel dysphoria from lesser to greater degree. It is completely another thing to then experience the opposite of that. Only when you experience feeling better do you have a contrast point to see how much you're struggling and suffering. That's why it's so important not to have physical be your one-all and be-all standard. This is the biggest obstacle with so-called late bloomers that they face, is this putting all the emphasis on the physical. Yes, physical is important, but I promise you, once you start taking steps and feeling much happier, you readjust even how you see that physical. You readjust how you see your feminine. That readjustment, that adaptability is the power of your years. It's the power of your maturity. That's a readjustment a 20-year-old can never do, I promise you. That's a readjustment only a crone with years of life experience behind their belt able to do. So If you're late bloomer, comment below. How old are you to consider yourself late bloomer? Like I said, everybody's different. Um, and comment below if this is your biggest obstacle to move forward. If you are allowing that physical standard to hold you back, can you at least promise and try to take small steps just to see how you feel before you completely prevent yourself from moving forward? Comment below, share with me, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye.